Thought for 1 meter 5 South 2:13 a.m. The message that shouldn't exist. I was still awake because my sleep schedule was wrecked. I'd been lying on my back with my phone on my chest, screen dimmed. Room dark except for a thin strip of streetlight leaking through the blinds. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not a call, it's just one sharp vibration. The screen lit up, and for a second I didn't move. Late-night notifications are either nothing or trouble, and my brain always takes the extra beat to decide which. The name on the screen made me sit up. Maya. Maya didn't text at 2 a.m. She was the type who put her phone on, silent, and actually slept. If she was awake late, it was memes at midnight, not this. I unlocked it and opened the message. Are you home? That was it. No emoji. No hey. Just for words. Flat and clean. My first reaction was that something happened. Her car broke down. She needed a ride. Something normal, but urgent. Then the second reaction hit. Maya already knew I was home. We'd talked earlier. I'd told her I was done for the night. And she was supposed to be at her sister's place across town, where the reception was always bad. I typed back, yeah, everything okay? The moment I hit send, the delivered tag appeared almost instantly. That was a little weird, but not weird enough to matter. Phones do that. Even simple questions. This one sat there like a door left cracked open. My stomach didn't buy it at that hour. I set the phone down, face up, and waited. 10 seconds? 20. The apartment felt too quiet, like the silence had weight. Then the typing bubble appeared. 3 dots. Moving, stopping. Moving again. I watched them like they were a heartbeat. The dots paused. Started again. Paused. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard even though there was nothing to type. I could feel that stupid impatience you get when you know someone is on the other end and they're choosing their words. The typing bubble vanished. No message came. I waited for it to pop back up, like maybe her app crashed or she got distracted. It did come back. 3 dots again, steady this time. And then after a few seconds, it stopped. The bubble disappeared. Still nothing. I frowned at my phone, then at the dark window like it could explain anything. And a small thought slipped in that I didn't like. It felt less like she couldn't decide what to say, and more like someone was checking if I was watching. Normal nights, normal conversations. I told myself I was reading too much into it. It was 2:13 in the morning. Everything feels heavier at that hour. Most nights look the same for me. I'd finish work late, throw something in the microwave, and sit at my desk with my headset on. Couple games, maybe a stream in the background. If I wasn't playing, I was scrolling. Shorts, Reddit threads, random rabbit holes that didn't matter in the morning. Maya was usually woven into that routine somewhere. We'd send each other clips, complain about classes, argue about dumb stuff like whether cereal counted as soup. It wasn't intense. It was comfortable. She had habits. That's what you notice when you talk to someone every day. She always opened with hey or my name. She overused voice notes because she said typing felt corporate. She never asked blunt questions without context. If she needed something, it came wrapped in 3 extra sentences and an apology. Are you home? Didn't fit that? I opened the chat again and scrolled up, letting the blue and gray bubbles stack into something familiar. Earlier that night, she'd sent me a picture of her sister's dog wearing a sweater. Before that, a rant about her Wi-Fi being slow. Nothing weird. Normal punctuation. Typos in the right places. I tapped her profile at the top. Same picture, same shared photos, same everything. My message still sat there, yeah. Everything okay? Delivered? No read receipt. That wasn't strange. She had those turned off most of the time because she said it stressed her out. I leaned back in my chair and tried to recreate the mood this could exist in. Maybe she stepped outside for a call. Maybe she forgot where I said I'd be. Maybe she meant something else and was just tired. Then I looked at her original text again. Are you home? Not are you at home? Not you home? Not even you home? She hated typing full words if she didn't have to. She'd once told me autocorrect made her sound like a substitute teacher. This sounded like a substitute teacher. I felt stupid the second the thought formed. People don't talk the same way every time. It was one sentence. For words. I was building a conspiracy out of grammar. Still, I copied the message into the search bar and checked our older conversations. She had asked me if I was home before, but it always came with something else. Are you home? Am I swing by? Or are you home? Or still out? There was always a reason attached. This one just hung there. My phone buzzed softly in my hand and my chest tightened for a split second. But it was only a random app notification. I exhaled and realized I'd been holding my breath. I told myself this is how it always is. Late night overthinking. Staring at a screen too long. Safe. Predictable. Just another conversation. But when I looked at the top of the chat again, waiting for the typing bubble to return, I couldn't shake the feeling that the message wasn't incomplete. It felt deliberate, like whoever sent it didn't need to explain anything. The delivery timestamp. I don't know what made me look at the timestamp. Maybe I just needed something concrete to focus on. I tapped and held her message so the small details popped up beneath it. 2:11 a.m. I stared at it for a second, confused. My phone had buzzed at 2:13. I was sure of it. I'd seen the time when the screen lit up. I even remember thinking it was later than I meant to be awake. I locked my phone and checked the clock on the lock screen. 2:18 a.m. I reopened the chat. Her message still said 2:11. Maybe it was delayed. Bad reception. Messages can hang for a couple minutes before pushing through. That made sense. It wasn't rare. Except the delivered label under my reply had appeared instantly. I tapped my message. 2:13 a.m. delivered. If her text had actually been sent at 2:11, why did it only come through at 2:13? 2 minutes isn't a big gap. It's nothing. But at that hour, when you're alone and staring at a single line of text, 2 minutes feels like a missing piece. I told myself it was just network lag. Her sister's place had terrible service. She complained about it constantly. Messages probably queued up and dropped at once. That explanation sat fine in my head for about 5 seconds. Then I noticed something else. At the top of the chat, under her name, it no longer said anything about read receipts. Usually there was a tiny note in our settings showing when messages were seen. She kept hers off most of the time. But we'd turned them on for each other months ago after a dumb argument about ghosting. I tapped into her contact info. Read receipts. Off. I frowned. That wasn't right. She hated toggling settings. Once something worked, she left it alone. Remember, because she'd complained about accidentally turning them on for a group chat once and didn't know how to undo it. Lana backed out, reopened the chat. Closed the app completely. Opened it again. Still off. I locked my phone and unlocked it again, like that would reset something invisible. I even toggled my own read receipts off and back on, just to see if it changed anything on her side. Nothing. I told myself she probably switched it earlier. Maybe she didn't want people seeing when she was online at her sister's. That was normal, private, reasonable. But the timing was strange. The message arriving late, timestamp, not matching the buzz. The read receipts suddenly off. None of it was big enough to matter on its own. Together, it just felt slightly misaligned, like a picture frame hanging a little crooked. I hovered over the keyboard, debating whether to send another message. Why'd you turn off read receipts? That sounded accusatory. Everything okay? I'd already asked that. My thumb moved toward the screen, then stopped. If something was wrong, she'd answer. If nothing was wrong, I'd look paranoid. So I didn't send anything. Just left the chat open, screen dimming slowly in my hand, and waited for the typing bubble to come back. The second text, I was still staring at the screen when it buzzed again. Same name. Same contact photo. New message slid into the thread. I know you said you leave the hallway light on. My stomach dropped before I even processed the words. That wasn't something we'd ever texted about. It was something I'd mentioned once in person weeks ago. We'd been sitting in my kitchen after midnight. And I'd made a joke about how I couldn't sleep unless the hallway light was on because the apartment felt too dark otherwise. She'd teased me for it, called me dramatic. I scrolled up quickly just to be sure. No mention of it in our messages, not once. I read the new text again. I know you said you leave the hallway light on. It wasn't phrased like her either. Too direct. No punctuation at the end. No sarcasm. No lol. Just a statement. My eyes flicked toward the hallway. The light was on. It always was. I forced a small laugh under my breath, like that would break whatever tension was forming. Psst. She'd probably remembered it randomly. People remember random things. But why bring it up now? I typed. Yeah, why? The response came almost instantly. Just checking. Just checking. That was it. The words felt flat, like they'd been pulled from a script. Maya never said, just checking. She'd say just wondering or IDE. I was thinking about it. She filled space when she talked. She didn't leave it this empty. I swallowed and leaned back in my chair, trying to slow down the thoughts that were starting to stack up. I'm overthinking. It's late. She's tired. Maybe she's outside and it's dark, and she thought about my hallway light for some reason. Maybe she's just being weird. But another thought pushed in quietly. This feels wrong. Not dramatic wrong. Not horror movie wrong. Just slightly off. Like someone repeating a sentence they heard once, but don't fully understand. I glanced toward my apartment door locked. Chain on. Windows closed. 3rd floor. Nothing about my situation had changed. My phone vibrated softly again. The typing bubble appeared. 3 dots. What? They stayed this time. 10 seconds. 20. 30. The dots pulsed steadily, like someone carefully composing something longer. My chest felt tight without me realizing when it started. 45 seconds. A full minute. The typing stopped. The bubble disappeared. And somehow, that felt worse than if it had. Calling doesn't fix it. I told myself the easiest way to end this was to call her. Texting leaves too much room for tone, delay, for misreading. I hit her name at the top of the screen and pressed call. The phone rang once and immediately cut to voicemail. Not even a full ring. It's just a sharp interruption, like it had been declined. I pulled the phone away and stared at it. That wasn't normal. Maya didn't decline calls. If she couldn't answer, it rang out, or she'd text after. And at 2:30 in the morning, if she was asleep, it would have kept ringing until voicemail picked up naturally. This felt manual. It's like someone saw my name and chose not to answer. My heartbeat had shifted into something faster now, but I kept telling myself there were normal explanations. Maybe she was on another call. Maybe her phone glitched. Maybe her sister grabbed it by mistake. Before I could decide whether to try again, my phone buzzed. A new message. Hey, why are you calling me? I stared at it, confused for half a second. I hadn't texted that I was calling. I hadn't warned her. Bored. I just pressed the button. The message had come through almost instantly after the call ended. No typing bubble, no delay, just a direct response. My fingers felt cold on the screen. I typed back, because you're texting weird. I deleted it. Typed, you just sent me some strange messages. Deleted that too. Instead I wrote, I just called you. The reply came faster this time. I didn't get a call that made my stomach drop in a way the earlier stuff hadn't. My call log was still open. Outgoing call, 2:31 a.m. duration, 0:02. It existed. I stared at the chat again. Are you calling me? The wording was wrong again. Slightly formal, slightly off. She would have said, why are you calling? Why are you calling? With extra punctuation? This looked measured. The timing bothered me more than anything. Hey. The message had appeared too quickly. As if whoever was on the other end already knew I'd tried to call before the system even registered it properly. I looked toward the hallway light again, then back at the phone. The situation had shifted. It wasn't just strange anymore. Something was reacting to me. Pattern recognition? I stopped responding. Instead, I scrolled. If this was just me spiraling, the older messages would prove it. I went back weeks, months. Let the conversation blur past until it hit familiar rhythms. I wasn't even reading for meaning anymore. I was looking at structure. Maya never used full stops at the end of casual sentences. Ever. She said it felt aggressive. If she typed okay, with a period it meant she was annoyed. She overused lowercase. Even her I was usually small, unless autocorrect fixed it. She stacked emojis when she was nervous, double question marks when confused, random typos when she was tired. I searched "Are you home?" in the chat. 3 results. The first one from last year. You home? The second. Are you home or still out lol? The third. You home? I might come by. None of them clean. None of them structured like tonight. I went back to the new message. Are you home? Perfect capitalization, clean spacing, no punctuation mistake, no abbreviation. I scrolled to the hallway light message. I know you said you leave the hallway light on. Again, technically flawless. Even the just checking. No comma. No filler. No personality. I started reading them out loud quietly, the way she'd normally sound in my head. They didn't land right. It wasn't just what was being said. It was the absence of everything else. The small imperfections that made her sound human. I kept comparing. Old message. ID key. Why my Wi-Fi is acting like this. New message. Why are you calling me? That one especially stuck with me. She would never phrase it like that. It sounded detached. It's like a customer service reply, like someone mirroring tone without understanding it. I scrolled again, back and forth, back and forth. Each time I reopened the recent messages, they felt more sterile. 3 messages in a row. Perfect grammar. Neutral tone. No emotional bleed. It shouldn't have mattered. But the consistency of it did. It was like someone studied her texting style, stripped out the quirks, and left only the skeleton. I opened her contact profile again just to double-check the number. Same number. Same saved contact. I even checked the country code, like maybe something subtle had changed. Nothing. Then I did something I didn't want to do. I compared typing speed. I remembered how long the bubble had stayed up earlier. It's almost a full minute. Steady. Intentional. Maya didn't type like that. She either rapid-fired messages in bursts or sent voice notes. She didn't carefully craft single, balanced sentences. The more I compared, the quieter my thoughts became, not louder. Not panicked, just focused. Because a simple explanation was forming, and I didn't like how reasonable it sounded. If this wasn't her typing style, if the timestamps didn't line up, if the call reaction came too quickly, then the messages might not be coming from her. And that thought didn't feel dramatic, felt logical. Location sharing, I needed something solid, something that didn't depend on tone or punctuation. So I tapped her profile again and opened location sharing. We'd turned it on months ago after she got stuck on the highway one night. It was casual, almost forgettable. Most of the time I didn't even think about it. The map loaded slowly. Her blue dot appeared across town, right where her sister lived. That should have been enough to calm me down. I zoomed in anyway. The dot pulsed gently anchored to the house. No movement. No drifting. Okay, see, normal. I exhaled and leaned back, feeling a little stupid for how tense I'd gotten. The phone warmed in my hand as I kept staring at the screen, just to prove to myself there was nothing there. Then the map refreshed. It was subtle. A slight flicker. It's the kind you'd miss if you blinked. Her jumped. It's not across town. Closer. Much closer. For half a second, it showed her on a side street I recognized immediately, 3 blocks from my apartment. I froze. Before I could even zoom in, it corrected itself. The snap back to her sister's address like it had never moved. My first instinct was to blame the app. GPS glitches. Maps drift sometimes when the signal recalibrates. I'd seen it happen while driving. But that kind of drift usually wobbles around the same area. A few meters. Maybe a street over. This had jumped miles. My fingers hovered over the screen. I zoomed into my own neighborhood, then back out to her sister's place. Both locations loaded fine. I closed the app completely and reopened it. The dots stayed put at her sister's house. Stable. Normal. But my mind wouldn't let go of what I'd seen, 3 blocks away. I knew that street. It had a small convenience store on the corner, a broken streetlight halfway down. I'd walked it dozens of times. If that flicker had been accurate, even for a second, whoever was sending those messages wasn't across town. They were close enough to walk here in under 5 minutes. I stared at the map longer than I needed to, like I was waiting for it to glitch again. It didn't. Everything on the screen looked calm, steady, exactly where it should be. Which somehow made it worse, because now the only unstable thing left in the room was me. The personal violation? I was still staring at the map when my phone buzzed again. I didn't jump this time. I just looked at it slowly, like sudden movement might make it worse. A new message. You're still awake. My throat tightened. I hadn't said that. I hadn't responded since the call. The last thing I'd sent was "I just called you." There were no read receipts, no typing indicator before it. Just the sentence sitting there calmly. I typed nothing. A glance at the time. 2:42 a.m. Anyone could assume I was awake after a missed call. That was reasonable. If I called, obviously I wasn't sleeping. That explanation felt solid for about 3 seconds. Then I realized something else. My room was dark, except for the hallway light spilling faintly across the floor. From outside, my window would look black. My desk lamp was off. My monitor was dimmed. There was no visible sign I was up. My phone buzzed again. Another message. You should turn that light off. I didn't breathe. My eyes moved slowly toward the hallway. The light was still on. It always was. The angle of my apartment meant that if someone stood in the parking lot below and looked up, they could see a thin stripe of yellow glow under my bedroom door through the gap in the blinds. It wasn't obvious, but it was there. I'd noticed it once when I came home late and looked up from outside. The message didn't say hallway. Didn't need to. It felt specific, measured, like whoever sent it knew exactly what I'd connect it to. I told myself it was a guess. People leave lights on. It's common. They were fishing for a reaction. My fingers hovered over the keyboard again. Where are you? I deleted it. I didn't want to confirm anything. Another buzz. You always said you don't like it. Completely dark. My chest felt tight now, like the air in the room had thinned. That wasn't something you could guess. That was something I'd said casually in my kitchen weeks ago. And now it was being sent back to me at 2:42 in the morning. I stood up slowly, not taking my eyes off the window. The blinds were half closed, tilted just enough to block direct sight from the street. But there were gaps. Tiny slivers between the plastic. I told myself not to look. Looking would confirm something. Looking would make it real. My phone buzzed again before I moved. I can see it from here. My heart started pounding in a way that felt loud enough to hear. From here, that word did something to me. Here meant nearby. Here meant proximity. Here meant not across town at her sister's house. I forced myself to step closer to the window. Each step felt deliberate, like I was walking towards something I couldn't undo. I didn't throw the blinds open. I just leaned slightly and tried to angle my head to see through one of the slats. All I saw was the parking lot, a few parked cars. The broken streetlight at the corner flickering weakly. Nothing moved. The lot looked empty. My phone vibrated again. No need to look. I know you are. That was the moment it stopped being confusing. It stopped being a glitch. It stopped being about grammar or timestamps. Someone was watching, and they wanted me to know it. Contained chaos, I didn't think. I moved. The hallway light went off first. I reached out and flipped the switch without looking away from the window. The apartment dropped into full darkness except for the faint glow of my phone. For a second I just stood there, letting my eyes adjust. My heart was pounding so hard it felt visible. I forced myself to breathe slower, quieter. If someone was outside, I didn't want them hearing footsteps, switches, anything. I stepped back from the window and moved toward the front door. Deadbolt. Locked. Chain on. I pressed my palm against the wood anyway, like I expected it to shift. Another vibration in my hand. I looked down. Better. That was it. No exclamation point. No threat. Just confirmation. I swallowed and walked to the kitchen window. Checked the latch. Closed tight. I crouched slightly to stay below the window line without really knowing if that mattered. The phone buzzed again, but this time I didn't check it immediately. I finished scanning the living room first. Balcony door locked. Curtains drawn. Only then did I look. You don't have to hide. My mouth felt dry. They weren't telling me to open anything. They weren't demanding. There was no rush in the wording. It was patient. That made it worse. I moved back into my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to think logically. If someone was really outside, they would have knocked, or tried the door, or done something obvious. Instead, they were texting, observing, testing reactions. Another buzz. You walk heavier when you're nervous. My stomach dropped. I hadn't realized I'd been pacing. The message wasn't exaggerated. It wasn't cinematic. It was small, specific. I typed, then erased. Who is this? Deleted. This wasn't Maya asking that might confirm I was unsure. If it was her, I'd look insane. I opened my call history again and stared at her name. Should I call the police? What would I even say? Someone is texting me weird things. They saw my hallway light. They said I walk heavy. It sounded thin. Circumstantial. I imagined trying to explain it to a dispatcher and hearing my own voice shake. Another message appeared. I like how quiet it is up here. Up here. 3rd floor. That detail hit differently. I stood again, this time more slowly, and walked toward the center of my apartment, away from every window. My phone felt too bright in my hand, so I lowered the screen brightness until it barely glowed. No more messages came for almost a full minute. The silence stretched, and that was when I realized something that made the isolation sink deeper. Whoever was texting didn't need to rush. They were already close enough. The real person responds. My phone rang so suddenly that I almost dropped it. Maya's name filled the screen. She sounded half asleep. Not staged, not careful, just confused. Then more awake now, what are you talking about? I pulled the phone away and switched to speaker so I could look at the thread while we talked. The last thing you sent was about the dog sweater, she said slowly. It's like hours ago. That's not true. That wasn't what I was seeing. On my end, the thread showed the 211 message. The hallway light. The why are you calling me? Every single one of them. Send me a screenshot, I said. A moment later, another notification popped up, an image from her. I opened it. Her chat screen looked clean. No 2 a.m. messages. No missed call reaction. No hallway light reference. Just the dog photo. My reply? Nothing after? Are you messing with me? She asked quietly. Why would I do that? I don't know, you sound weird. I zoomed into her screenshot, searching for anything that looked edited. It didn't. The timestamps matched earlier in the night. The formatting was normal. On my screen, the messages were still there. Clear, recent, unread on her end. You didn't send anything at 2:11? I asked. No, I was asleep. I swear I checked the contact number again while she talked. Maya. I called you like 15 minutes ago. My phone never rang. I opened my call log again. Outgoing call. 2:31 a.m. It was right there, but on her side, there was nothing. Which meant one thing. Whatever I was seeing wasn't showing up for her. Someone wasn't just texting me. They were controlling what I saw. The last message? Okay, this isn't funny anymore, Maya said, her voice tight now. If you're pranking me, just tell me. I'm not, I said. My eyes were still locked on the thread, as if on cue. My phone vibrated in my hand. Another message. It slid into the conversation while Maya was still talking. Don't tell them. My entire body went cold. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stared at the screen. What? She asked. Why'd you go quiet? There's another one, I said slowly. Another what? Another message? A pause. I could hear her breathing now. Read it. It says, don't tell them. Silence on her end. Then sharper. I didn't send that. I didn't need her to say it. I could hear it in her voice. There was no hesitation, no weird delay. You're on the phone with me, I said. And it just came through? I'm not even in our chat, she said, looking at your screenshot. My chest felt tight again. On my screen, the message sat beneath the others, perfectly formatted. Same clean grammar, same neutral tone. Don't tell them. Them, not her, not me, them. My eyes drifted toward the window without meaning to. The blinds were still half tilted. The parking lot outside looked the same. Still empty? Are you outside? She asked suddenly. No. Then why do you sound like that? Before I could answer, the typing bubble appeared again. 3 dots, while Maya was actively speaking in my ear. They pulsed steadily, not rushed, not glitching, intentional. Is it typing? She whispered. Yeah. How? Not typing. The dots stayed there. 10 seconds. 20. Maya's breathing was shallow now. I hung up and called the police. I couldn't move. The typing bubble kept going. 30 seconds. 40. Then it stopped. The dots disappeared. No new message came. I don't know what felt worse. The message that told me not to tell anyone, or the fact that whoever was on the other end knew I had. Silence, nothing else came. The screen stayed still. No typing bubble. No new vibration. Just the last message sitting there like it had always belonged. Call the police, Maya said again, quieter now. I pulled the phone from my ear and checked the thread one more time. The messages were still visible. Then, without warning, the contact name at the top flickered. Just for a split second. When it stabilized, something was different. Location sharing gone. I tapped her profile immediately. No shared location, no toggle, nothing. Maya, I said slowly, putting her back on speaker. Did you turn off your location? What? No. I didn't touch anything. It's not showing anymore. That's not possible. I haven't even left my bed. I refreshed the chat. The earlier messages, the 211 text, the hallway light, the don't tell them, were still there. But something about the order felt off. I couldn't explain it at first. The timestamps were the same. The wording was the same. But the thread didn't feel chronological anymore. I scrolled up. The dog picture. A reply. Then nothing. The 2 a.m. messages were gone. My heart skipped. Scrolled down again. Blank space. I scrolled up once more. Still blank. Maya, I said carefully. The messages just disappeared. What messages? The ones from tonight? Are you serious? I checked my call log. The outgoing call was still there. But when I tapped her contact, the number underneath looked normal, too normal, like it had always been this way. I tried calling her again. This time it rang properly. She answered immediately. Okay, she said. I'm looking at everything. There's nothing here, no new texts, no missed calls, nothing weird on my end. I felt heat rise in my face. Sitting in my dark apartment, phone in hand, it suddenly sounded ridiculous, like I'd imagined it. Like exhaustion and too much screen time had twisted something small into something bigger. I'm sorry, I muttered. That's when I noticed it. The thread hadn't just deleted messages. It had reordered itself. My reply about the dog sweater now appeared above her picture, as if I'd responded before she sent it. Aftermath? Nothing else happened that night. No more texts. No movement outside. No unexplained calls. By morning, the whole thing felt distant, smaller, manageable. Maya came over later that day so we could compare phones in person. Our chats matched again. Clean, normal. The dog photo sat exactly where it should. No missing threads, no reordered messages. Even my call log looked ordinary after a restart. We told ourselves it had to be spoofing, some kind of number mirroring, maybe a bug in the messaging app, maybe someone using software to simulate a thread. There were articles about stuff like that, deepfakes, phishing, social engineering. Sounded technical enough to be comforting. Days passed. No more strange messages. No flickering location pins. No typing bubbles that didn't belong. Life resumed its shape. But small things shifted. I stopped leaving the hallway light on. It's not because I was scared of the dark. It's because I didn't want anyone knowing I preferred it. I started keeping my phone face down at night. Screen brightness lower than before. Notifications muted after midnight. I closed my blinds fully now. No tilted slats. No thin stripes of light escaping into the parking lot. When I walked across my apartment, I caught myself listening to my own footsteps, trying to gauge how loud they sounded from outside. I told myself it was caution, not fear, just awareness. Sometimes around 2 a.m., I still wake up for no reason. I check my phone even if it hasn't buzzed, just in case there's never anything there. But the absence doesn't comfort me the way it should. Because once you've seen a message that wasn't meant for you, or maybe was, you don't really go back to trusting the silence. Unresolved unease, it's been 3 weeks. I'm back to sleeping earlier. Mostly, tonight I woke up at 2:13 a.m. without knowing why. The room was completely dark now. No hallway light, no glow under the door. My phone was face down on the nightstand. It buzzed once, not loud, just enough. I didn't touch it right away. I told myself it was probably an app notification, spam, a late email. Eventually, I turned it over. Unknown number. No contact photo, no location, no history. Just a single notification preview. 3 dots. Typing. There was no text, no words, just the live typing indicator pulsing under a number I didn't recognize. I watched it for a full 10 seconds. It didn't stop. Didn't send anything either. My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't open it. I let the display dim slowly until the room went dark again. The typing dots kept moving behind the glass. Some messages don't need to be read to change you.